Whispers in the walls. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate of Harrow House. The mansion, though showing signs of age and neglect, stood tall and imposing, a testament to its once glorious past. Its Gothic architecture, with tall spires and intricate stonework, gave it an air of grandeur. A moving van pulled up the long driveway, its tires crunching on the gravel. Behind it, a family car followed, coming to a stop in front of the mansion's massive wooden doors. The Mitchell family stepped out, their faces a mix of awe and excitement. Emma Mitchell, with her raven black hair tied in a loose bun, looked up at the mansion, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's even more magnificent than the pictures," she whispered, clutching a leather-bound notebook to her chest. David Mitchell, her husband, a tall man with a beard peppered with gray, chuckled. "It's certainly grand," he said, a hint of apprehension in his voice. "A bit more than we bargained for, perhaps." Their daughter, Lily, an 8-year-old with curly brown hair and a face full of freckles, was already running towards the house, her laughter echoing in the vastness of the estate. "Look, Mom. There's a tower. Can that be my room?" Emma laughed, watching her daughter's enthusiasm. "We'll see, sweetie. Let's explore the house together." The family made their way to the entrance, the doors creaking open to reveal a grand hallway. Dust motes danced in the beams of sunlight filtering through the stained glass windows. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and a hint of mildew. As they ventured further inside, the sheer size of the mansion became apparent. High ceilings adorned with chandeliers, long corridors lined with portraits of stern-looking ancestors, and rooms filled with antique furniture covered in white sheets. "It's like stepping back in time," Emma murmured, her journalist instincts kicking in as she began jotting down notes. David, ever the practical one, began assessing the repairs and renovations needed. "It's going to take some work to make it livable," he commented, examining a leaky ceiling. Lily, on the other hand, was in her element, darting from room to room, her imagination running wild. "This can be the ballroom. And this, the library. Oh, and look, a secret passage," she exclaimed, pointing to a slightly ajar bookshelf. The family spent hours exploring, each room revealing more about the mansion's history. By the time they were done, night had fallen, and the house was bathed in an eerie moonlight. "We have our work cut out for us," David said, looking around. "But I think we can make this place our home." Emma nodded, her thoughts already on the stories the walls might tell. "There's so much history here. I can't wait to uncover it all." Lily, tired from her adventures, yawned. "It's like a fairy tale castle," she mumbled, snuggling close to her mother. "I love it." The Mitchell family, filled with hope and dreams for their new life, settled in for their first night at Harrow House, unaware of the whispers that would soon echo through its walls. The morning sun cast a golden hue over Harrow House, its rays filtering through the dense canopy of trees surrounding the mansion. Birds chirped, and the world seemed to come alive. The Mitchell family, having spent their first night in their new home, were up and about, unpacking boxes and setting up their belongings. Emma was in the kitchen, arranging dishes and utensils, when she heard a knock on the door. She wiped her hands on her apron and went to answer it. Standing outside were 3 individuals, an elderly woman with silver hair tied in a bun, a middle-aged man with a friendly face and a hint of a beard, and a young woman, probably in her early 20s, with a basket of fresh produce in her hands. "Good morning," the elderly woman greeted, her voice warm but with a hint of caution. "I'm Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, the town's librarian. This is Mr. Jacob Bennett, our mayor, and his daughter, Clara." Emma smiled, extending her hand. "Emma Mitchell. It's lovely to meet you all. Please, come in." The trio entered, taking in the grandeur of the mansion's interior. "It's been years since anyone's lived here," Jacob commented, his eyes scanning the room. "It's good to see some life in the old place." Eleanor nodded in agreement, though her eyes held a hint of worry. "Yes, it's been quite some time. Harrow House has always been a significant part of our town's history." Emma, sensing there was more to the story, probed gently. "I've heard bits and pieces about the mansion's past, but I'd love to know more." Clara, placing the basket on the table, chimed in, "It's a beautiful house, but it has its tales. Some folks say it's haunted." Emma laughed softly. "Every old house has its ghost stories. I'm sure it's just local folklore." Eleanor exchanged a glance with Jacob before speaking. "It's not just tales, dear. There have been incidents. Unexplained occurrences. Voices in the night, objects moving on their own, cold spots in the middle of summer." Jacob added, "Several families have tried to live here over the years, but none stayed for long. they all reported strange happenings. Some even claimed to have seen apparitions. Emma, trying to keep the atmosphere light, replied, "Well, we've been here a night, and so far, so good. No ghosts have come to say hello." Clara, looking genuinely concerned, said, "It's not just the house, Mrs. Mitchell. The grounds, the forest around it, even the pond at the back, they all have their stories. People have gone missing, only to be found days later with no memory of what happened." Emma, sensing the genuine concern in the young woman's voice, softened her tone. "Thank you for your concern, Clara. We'll be careful. But we've invested a lot in this place, and we're determined to make it our home." Eleanor, placing a gentle hand on Emma's arm, said, "All we ask is that you be cautious. Listen to the house, to the land. If you ever feel something is amiss, don't dismiss it." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, with the townsfolk sharing more about the community, local events, and places of interest. As the morning wore on, more neighbors dropped by, each bringing gifts and well wishes, but also sharing their own tales and warnings about Harrow House. David, having overheard some of the conversations, approached Emma. "Do you think there's any truth to these stories?" he whispered. Emma, looking thoughtful, replied, "Every town has its legends, David. It's probably just a way to keep the kids in line or to add some mystery to the place. We'll be fine." Lily, who had been playing in the garden, came running in, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, Dad. I made a new friend. She's by the pond. Can I go play with her?" Emma and David exchanged a glance, remembering Clara's words about the pond. "Not right now, sweetie," David said gently. "Let's have lunch first." As the day wore on and the visitors dwindled, the Mitchell family sat down for dinner, the events of the day fresh in their minds. They discussed the stories, the warnings, and the history of their new home. Lily, her eyes wide with curiosity, asked, "Do you think the house is really haunted?" David, ever the skeptic, replied, "Old houses make noises, Lil. It's just the wood settling or the wind. There's a logical explanation for everything." Emma, gazing at the portrait of a stern-looking man hanging on the wall, said, "Haunted or not, this is our home now. We'll make our own memories here, and maybe, in time, add our own stories to its history." The family raised their glasses in a toast. "To new beginnings," David declared. "To Harrow House," Emma added with a smile. And as night fell, the mansion, with its long history and whispered tales, settled into a quiet slumber, ready to embrace its new inhabitants. The first week at Harrow House was a whirlwind of activity. Boxes were unpacked, rooms were set up, and the mansion slowly began to feel like home. The grandeur of the house, with its high ceilings, ornate moldings, and vast rooms, was a constant source of wonder for Lily, who spent her days exploring every nook and cranny. One evening, as the family sat down for dinner in the grand dining room, the conversation inevitably turned to the stories they had heard from the townspeople. "You know, I've been thinking about all those tales," David began, cutting into his steak. "It's fascinating how stories get passed down from generation to generation, each time becoming more embellished." Emma, sipping her wine, nodded. "It's like a game of telephone. The original story gets distorted with each retelling. I've been doing some research, and while there are records of families moving out after short periods, there's no concrete evidence of anything supernatural." Lily, her eyes wide with curiosity, asked, "But what about the voices, Mom? And the cold spots? And the people who went missing?" David chuckled, "Old houses have all sorts of quirks, Lil. Drafts, creaky floorboards, and as for the missing people, there could be 100 logical explanations." Emma added, "And voices can be echoes, or even the wind. This house is surrounded by woods, and the sounds can play tricks on the mind." Lily looked thoughtful. "I guess. But it's fun to think about ghosts and mysteries. It's like living in a storybook." David smiled, ruffling her hair. "As long as you remember it's just stories, kiddo. There's nothing to be afraid of." The conversation shifted to more mundane topics, like school for Lily and work for David. Emma, however, remained lost in thought. As a journalist, she had a natural curiosity and a desire to uncover the truth. The stories about Harrow House intrigued her, not because she believed in ghosts, but because she wanted to understand the origins of the tales. A few days later, Emma decided to pay a visit to the town's library. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian she had met on her first day, greeted her warmly. "Back for more stories, dear?" Eleanor asked with a twinkle in her eye. Emma laughed, "Something like that. I was hoping to look at any old records or newspapers you might have about Harrow House." Eleanor led her to a section of the library filled with dusty old books and yellowing newspapers. This is our local history section. You might find what you're looking for here. Emma spent hours poring over the records, looking for any mention of Harrow House. She found articles about its construction, its various owners, and even some about the lavish parties that were once held there. But nothing that could explain the ghostly tales. Frustrated, she was about to give up when she stumbled upon a series of articles from the late 1800s. They spoke of a young woman named Clara, the same name as the mayor's daughter, who had lived in Harrow House and had mysteriously disappeared. The articles spoke of a town in mourning, of search parties that scoured the woods, and of a heartbroken family that eventually moved away. Emma's heart raced as she read. Could this be the origin of the tales? A real-life mystery that had somehow morphed into tales of hauntings and apparitions? She made copies of the articles and decided to pay a visit to the mayor. Mr. Jacob Bennet welcomed her into his home, and they sat down with cups of tea. I found these articles about a young woman named Clara who lived in Harrow House and disappeared, Emma began, showing him the clippings. Is this the same Clara the stories are about? Jacob looked at the articles, his face pale. Yes, that's her. She was my great-great-aunt. The family never spoke of her, but I remember my grandmother telling me stories when I was a child. She said Clara was in love with a man the family disapproved of. One night, she went to meet him and never returned. Emma, sensing there was more to the story, pressed on. Do you think this could be the reason for the tales? A real-life tragedy that got turned into ghost stories? Jacob nodded. It's possible. People needed a way to make sense of the tragedy, and over time, the stories evolved. Emma left the mayor's house with more questions than answers. She was determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, not for the sake of a story, but to bring peace to a family and a town that had been haunted by the past. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about Clara and the love that had cost her everything. She thought about the stories, the warnings, and the genuine concern of the townspeople. And she made a silent promise to herself to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. The moonlight streamed through the gaps in the heavy drapes of Lily's room, casting a silvery glow on the antique furniture. The room, with its high ceilings and ornate moldings, was a little girl's dream, reminiscent of the chambers of princesses in fairy tales. But tonight, as Lily lay tucked under her quilt, something felt amiss. A soft, indistinct murmur, like the rustling of leaves or the distant hum of a lullaby, seemed to emanate from the walls. At first, Lily thought it was the wind or perhaps a dream, but as she strained her ears, the murmurs grew more pronounced. Unable to discern the words, she felt a mix of curiosity and unease. Pulling the covers up to her chin, she whispered, "Who's there?" But the only response was the continued, almost rhythmic, murmuring. The next morning, as the family gathered for breakfast, Lily hesitated before speaking up. "Mom, Dad, I heard something strange last night. It was like whispers, coming from the walls." Emma, pausing with her coffee cup halfway to her lips, looked at her daughter with concern. "Whispers, sweetie? Are you sure it wasn't just a dream?" Lily nodded, her brow furrowed. "I'm sure. It was very soft, and I couldn't make out the words, but it was definitely there." David, ever the voice of reason, chimed in, "It's an old house, Lil. There are bound to be strange noises. It could be the pipes, or maybe some critters in the walls." Lily looked unconvinced. "It didn't sound like pipes or animals, Dad. It sounded like voices." Emma, her curiosity piqued, asked, "Did it sound like one voice or many?" Lily thought for a moment. It was hard to tell. It was all jumbled up, like many voices speaking at once. David, trying to alleviate his daughter's fears, said, "Why don't we take a look after breakfast? We can check the walls, see if there's anything that might be causing the noise." The family finished their meal, and David and Lily headed to her room. After a thorough inspection, which included knocking on walls and checking for drafts, David concluded, "Everything seems fine, kiddo. No signs of rodents or any issues with the walls. It was probably just the house settling." Lily, though still uneasy, nodded. "Okay, Dad. Maybe you're right." As the days went by, the murmurs continued. Some nights they were faint, barely audible, while on others, they seemed louder, more insistent. Lily tried to ignore them, often burying her head under her pillow, but the voices, though indistinct, were ever present. One evening, as she lay in bed reading, the whispers grew clearer. Snippets of conversations, fragments of sentences, began to emerge. "Wait for me by the pond, the locket, it's gone, don't trust him." The voices, though overlapping, seemed to be recounting tales of love, betrayal, and sorrow. Lily, her heart racing, ran to her parents' room. "Mom, Dad. The voices, they're speaking clearly now. I can hear them." Emma, sensing her daughter's distress, pulled her into a comforting embrace. "It's okay, sweetie. We're here." David, though skeptical, tried to reassure her. "It's late, and you're tired. Let's get you back to bed. We can talk about it in the morning." But Emma, her journalist instincts kicking in, felt a growing need to understand. "David, what if there's more to this? What if the stories, the history of this house, are somehow connected to what Lily's hearing?" David sighed. We can't jump to conclusions. There's always a logical explanation." Emma looked thoughtful. "Maybe. But I think it's worth looking into. For Lily's sake and ours." And as the night deepened, the whispers continued, their tales echoing through the walls of Harrow House, waiting to be heard. The whispers that Lily heard had sown a seed of curiosity in Emma's mind. The journalist in her couldn't ignore the possibility of a hidden story within the walls of Harrow House. Each night, as the house settled into a quiet slumber, Emma found herself lying awake, straining her ears, hoping to catch a fragment of the elusive whispers. David, on the other hand, remained steadfastly skeptical. "Emma, we can't let our imaginations run wild. It's an old house, and old houses make noises. It's as simple as that." Emma, flipping through her notes on the house's history, replied, "I know, David. But what if there's more to it? What if these whispers are a way for us to uncover the house's secrets?" David raised an eyebrow. "Secrets? Emma, we bought a house, not a mystery novel. Let's focus on making it a home." Emma smiled wryly. "I am, but part of making it a home is understanding its history, its essence. I just want to explore the possibilities." David, seeing the determination in his wife's eyes, sighed. "All right, but let's not let this overshadow our lives. We moved here for a fresh start, remember?" Emma nodded, her mind already racing with theories and possibilities. "Of course, but a little mystery never hurt anyone." Over the next few days, Emma delved deeper into her research. She spent hours at the town library, poring over old newspapers and documents, looking for any clues that might explain the whispers. Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian, became a frequent companion, sharing tales and legends about Harrow House. "Many believe that the house is a keeper of secrets," Eleanor said one day as they sat in the library's dusty archives. "They say the walls have absorbed the emotions, the stories of its inhabitants, and sometimes, they speak." Emma, intrigued, asked, "Have you ever heard the whispers, Eleanor?" The elderly librarian shook her head. "No, but my grandmother did. She used to work at the house as a maid. She said the whispers were most prominent in the rooms where strong emotions were felt, love, anger, sorrow." Emma's eyes widened. "That's fascinating. It's like the house is a living entity, absorbing and reflecting the energies around it." Eleanor nodded. "Exactly. But be cautious, Emma. Some stories are better left untold. Some secrets are better left buried." Emma, her curiosity piqued, thanked Eleanor and headed back to Harrow House. That night, as the moon bathed the mansion in silver light, she sat in Lily's room, a digital recorder in hand, waiting for the whispers. Hours passed, the house was silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the rustling of the trees outside. Just as Emma was about to give up, she heard it, a soft, indistinct murmur, like a distant conversation carried by the wind. Her heart racing, Emma pressed the record button and held her breath. The whispers grew louder, the voices more distinct. Snippets of conversations, fragments of sentences filled the room. "The locket holds the key, meet me by the old oak tree, beware of the shadows." Emma, her mind reeling, listened intently, trying to piece together the puzzle. The voices, though overlapping, seemed to be recounting tales of love, betrayal, and mystery. As the first rays of the sun filtered through the curtains, the whispers faded away, leaving Emma with more questions than answers. The next morning, she played the recording for David. His face, initially skeptical, turned thoughtful as he listened to the voices. "It's intriguing. But it could be anything, radio interference, echoes, even our own voices." Emma, determined, replied, "Maybe, but I believe there's more to it. I believe these whispers are the key to uncovering the house's history." David, seeing the fire in his wife's eyes, nodded. "All right, let's explore this together. But let's keep it from Lily. No need to scare her." Emma agreed, and together, they delved into the mystery of the whispers in the walls, unaware of the secrets they were about to uncover and the shadows that lurked in the corners of Harrow House. The days turned into weeks, and the Mitchell family settled into a rhythm at Harrow House. While David focused on renovations and Lily immersed herself in school and new friendships, Emma's obsession with the Whispers grew. Every night, she would sit in different rooms, recorder in hand, hoping to capture the elusive voices. One evening, as a storm raged outside, the atmosphere inside Harrow House felt charged. The wind howled, and the rain lashed against the windows, but within the walls, a different kind of tempest brewed. The whispers, once faint and indistinct, grew louder and more coherent. Emma, sitting in the grand library surrounded by ancient tomes and manuscripts, felt a chill run down her spine. The room, with its dark wood paneling and towering bookshelves, seemed to come alive. The whispers echoed, their cadence rhythmic, like a heartbeat. "Eleanor, wait for me by the rose garden, the treasure is hidden beneath the floorboards, he betrayed us all, trust no one." Emma, her hands trembling, tried to jot down the fragments of conversations she heard. The voices, though varied, seemed to be from different eras, each recounting tales of love, betrayal, and intrigue. Suddenly, a voice, clear and distinct, rose above the others. It was a woman's voice, filled with sorrow. "Jonathan, why did you leave me? The locket, our promise. I'll wait for you, forever." Emma, her heart pounding, recognized the name. Clara. The young woman who had disappeared from Harrow House over a century ago. Could this be her voice? Her story? The storm outside intensified, lightning illuminating the room in stark flashes. The whispers grew frantic, overlapping, as if the spirits were trying to communicate, to share their tales before the storm drowned them out. Emma, feeling a mix of fear and exhilaration, whispered, "Clara? Is that you? Tell me your story." The room grew silent, the only sound the rain against the windows. Then, Clara's voice, soft and melancholic, began to narrate. "I was in love, a forbidden love. Jonathan, the gardener's son, and I would meet in secret, away from prying eyes. We exchanged a locket, a symbol of our promise to each other. But fate had other plans. My family found out, and we were torn apart. I waited for him, night after night, but he never came. One evening, as I stood by the pond, heartbroken, the world went dark. I never saw the light of day again." Emma, tears in her eyes, whispered, "I'm so sorry, Clara. Your story won't be forgotten." The storm began to subside, and the whispers faded away, leaving Emma with a heavy heart and a determination to uncover the truth. The next morning, she shared her findings with David. He listened, his initial skepticism replaced by concern. "Emma, we need to be careful. If these voices are real, if there's spirits trapped in this house, we need to find a way to help them find peace." Emma nodded, "I agree. But first, we need to uncover their stories, give them a voice." And so, the Mitchell family, once mere inhabitants of Harrow House, became its guardians, determined to unravel its mysteries and lay its ghost to rest. The grand study of Harrow House had transformed. Once a room filled with dusty old books and portraits of stern ancestors, it now resembled a detective's office. Charts, maps of the mansion, and timelines adorned the walls. In the center of the room stood a large wooden table, scattered with notebooks, old photographs, and a digital recorder. Emma, her raven black hair now often tied in a messy bun, sat at the table, headphones on, replaying the recordings of the whispers. Each voice, each fragment of a sentence, was meticulously documented. She treated them not as mere echoes of the past but as tangible clues, pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that, when assembled, would reveal the stories of Harrow House. One evening, as the sun cast a golden hue over the mansion, Emma sat engrossed in her notes. The whispers from the previous night had been particularly clear: the secret passage by the fireplace, the locket lies beneath, beware of the full moon. She pondered over the recurring mention of a locket and a secret passage. Could they be connected? And what significance did the full moon hold? Determined to find answers, Emma decided to explore the mansion further. Armed with a flashlight and her notes, she began her search in the grand living room, where a massive fireplace dominated one wall. She examined every brick, every crevice, looking for any sign of a hidden passage. Hours passed, and just as she was about to give up, her fingers brushed against a loose brick. Pushing it gently, she felt a mechanism click, and a section of the wall beside the fireplace slowly swung open, revealing a narrow, dimly lit corridor. Emma's heart raced. The whispers had been right. Taking a deep breath, she ventured into the passage. The air was thick with dust, and the walls were lined with old portraits and tapestries. As she delved deeper, she stumbled upon a small chamber. In the center stood an ornate wooden chest. Hesitating for a moment, she opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, lay a silver locket. It was intricately designed, with the initials C and J engraved on it. Emma's hands trembled as she picked it up. This had to be the locket Clara had mentioned, the symbol of her love for Jonathan. As she held the locket, a rush of emotions flooded her: love, sorrow, despair. It was as if the locket held not just memories but the very essence of Clara's soul. Emma, overwhelmed, decided to document her findings. She took photographs, made notes, and even recorded the ambience of the chamber. The whispers, she realized, were not just random echoes, they were guiding her, leading her to the heart of the mansion's mysteries. Returning to the study, she placed the locket on the table, a tangible piece of Harrow House's past. She felt a connection, a responsibility to uncover the truth and give voice to the souls that still lingered within the walls. That night, as the mansion settled into its nocturnal rhythm, the whispers returned, but this time, they were different. They were no longer fragmented murmurs but clear, coherent sentences. Thank you, the truth lies in the woods, beware of the shadows. Emma, lying in bed, felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. She had uncovered a piece of the puzzle, but the journey was far from over. The woods, the shadows, the mysteries of Harrow House beckoned, and she was ready to answer the call. The town's library, a quaint stone building with ivy-covered walls, was a treasure trove of history. Emma had become a familiar face there, often seen poring over old records and documents. Today, however, her focus was singular: she needed to find any newspaper articles related to Harrow House. Eleanor Whitmore, the librarian, greeted her warmly. "Back again, dear? You're becoming quite the historian." Emma smiled. "I'm on the trail of something, Eleanor. I need to find any old newspaper articles about Harrow House, especially any that mention tragic events or mysteries." Eleanor's eyes clouded with a mix of curiosity and concern. "You tread a delicate path, Emma. The past can be a labyrinth of secrets. But come, I'll help you." Together, they delved into the archives, sifting through yellowing newspapers and brittle pages. Hours passed, and just as Emma was beginning to lose hope, Eleanor exclaimed, "Here. Look at this." She handed Emma a newspaper from 1892. The headline read, "Tragedy at Harrow House, Young Heiress Missing." The article detailed the mysterious disappearance of Clara Bennett, the young heiress to the Harrow estate. It spoke of a town in mourning, of search parties that scoured the woods, and of a heartbroken family that eventually moved away. Another article from a few years later spoke of a gardener named Jonathan who was found dead in the woods near Harrow House, an apparent suicide. The article hinted at a forbidden romance and a town scandal. Emma's hands trembled as she read. The pieces were coming together. Clara and Jonathan's tragic love story, the whispers, the locket, it all made sense. Eleanor, watching Emma, said softly, "The walls of Harrow House have seen much joy and sorrow. It's said that the woods hold the key to many of its mysteries." Emma, her eyes filled with determination, replied, "I need to uncover the truth, Eleanor. For Clara, for Jonathan, and for all the souls that still linger in the mansion." Eleanor nodded. "Just remember, dear, some secrets are guarded for a reason. Tread carefully." Emma thanked Eleanor and left the library, her mind racing. The woods, the whispers had mentioned, held the truth. She needed to explore them, to uncover the secrets they hid. As she walked back to Harrow House, the setting sun cast long shadows on the ground, and the woods seemed to beckon her, their dark canopy hiding mysteries of love, betrayal, and sorrow. Emma felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She was on the brink of a discovery, and she was determined to see it through. Aunt Agatha, with her silver hair neatly coiled into a bun and her ever-present string of pearls, was a figure from David's childhood that was both revered and slightly feared. Known for her sharp wit and even sharper intuition, she had a knack for seeing things others missed. When Emma and David had informed her of their move to Harrow House, she'd been surprisingly silent, offering only a cryptic, "Be mindful of the past." Now, standing at the entrance of the grand mansion, Aunt Agatha's piercing blue eyes took in the structure, a shadow of unease crossing her features. David, noticing her hesitation, asked, "Is everything all right, Aunt Agatha?" She took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving the house. "This place. It holds memories, David. Not all of them pleasant." Emma, intrigued, approached her. "You've been here before?" Aunt Agatha nodded slowly. "Many years ago, when I was just a child. My own aunt lived here for a brief period. She left. Under mysterious circumstances." David, surprised, exclaimed, "Why didn't you mention this before?" Aunt Agatha sighed, It was a chapter of our family history we chose to forget. But now, seeing this place again, the memories come flooding back. The family moved inside, and as they walked through the grand hallways, Aunt Agatha's demeanor grew increasingly tense. She paused in front of the grand fireplace, her fingers lightly touching the mantel. "This is where she used to sit," she murmured, "my Aunt Lillian. She'd stare into the fire for hours, lost in her thoughts." Emma, sensing a story, gently prodded, "What happened to her, Aunt Agatha?" Aunt Agatha hesitated, then whispered. She claimed she heard voices. Whispers from the walls. They tormented her, spoke of tragedies and dark secrets. We thought it was her imagination, the ramblings of a lonely woman. But one day, she disappeared. Just vanished without a trace. David, his face pale, said, "That's eerie. And you think it's connected to the house?" Aunt Agatha looked around, her eyes filled with sadness. "This house has seen its share of joys and sorrows. Its walls have absorbed the emotions of its inhabitants. And sometimes, those emotions manifest in ways we can't comprehend." Emma, thinking of the whispers she'd been investigating, asked, "Do you believe in the whispers, Aunt Agatha?" Aunt Agatha met her gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and understanding. "I believe that some places, like some people, are more sensitive to the energies of the past. Harrow House is one such place. If you're hearing the whispers, Emma, it means the house has chosen to communicate with you. But be wary. Not all memories are meant to be unearthed." The visit, though brief, left a profound impact on the Mitchell family. Aunt Agatha's revelations added another layer to the mystery of Harrow House. And as the sun set, casting long shadows across the mansion, Emma felt a renewed determination to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. The nights at Harrow House grew colder, the air thick with anticipation. Emma, now accustomed to the nightly whispers, waited each evening for their arrival. But as days turned into weeks, a change became evident. The cacophony of overlapping voices began to recede, making way for one dominant voice that echoed with clarity and emotion, Clara's. One fateful evening, as Emma sat in the library, the room dimly lit by a single candle, Clara's voice began its tale, soft and melancholic. "In a time long past, when the moon shone brightest and the stars told tales of love and destiny, I, Clara, found my heart entwined with that of Jonathan, the gardener's son. Our love, though pure and true, was forbidden, for the world saw not with the eyes of the heart but with those of status and class." Emma, entranced, listened as Clara's voice painted a vivid picture of stolen moments in the rose garden, secret letters exchanged, and promises made under the canopy of the old oak tree. But our love, though strong, was not destined for a happy ending. For in the shadows lurked envy and deceit. Lord Bennet, my father, upon discovering our affair, was consumed by rage. He sought the counsel of a dark witch, hoping to tear us apart. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy, the weight of sorrow palpable. The witch, in exchange for gold and power, cast a curse. A curse that bound the souls of Harrow House, ensuring that no love would ever find its happy ending within its walls. Jonathan and I became the first victims, our souls trapped, our love story left incomplete. Emma's heart ached as she imagined the young lovers, torn apart by fate and cruelty. But the curse did not end with us, Clara's voice continued. It grew stronger with each passing generation, feeding on the sorrows and tragedies of the house's inhabitants. A chill ran down Emma's spine as the implications of Clara's words sank in. The whispers, the stories, the tragedies, they were all connected by the threads of a dark curse. Clara's voice, now tinged with urgency, whispered, "The curse can be broken, but it requires a sacrifice, a gesture of true love. Find the locket, complete the ritual, and set our souls free." The room grew silent, the weight of Clara's revelations hanging in the air. Emma, her mind racing, realized that the fate of Harrow House and its trapped souls rested on her shoulders. The locket, the key to breaking the curse, was in her possession. But what was the ritual? And what sacrifice would be required? Determined to find answers and break the curse, Emma knew she had to delve deeper into the mysteries of Harrow House, no matter the cost. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the dining room, casting a warm glow over the antique furniture. The Mitchell family sat around the table, the atmosphere tense. Emma, her face pale, recounted Clara's tale to David and Lily. As she spoke of the curse and the ritual, and Agatha, who had been silent until now, cleared her throat. Young Clara wasn't the only soul ensnared by the curse, she began, her voice heavy with emotion. Our family, the Bennet lineage, has been intertwined with Harrow House for generations. And with it, the weight of the curse. David, his brow furrowed, asked, "Why didn't you tell us this before, Aunt Agatha?" She sighed, I hope that by leaving the past behind, we could escape its clutches. But it seems the house has other plans. Emma, her journalist instincts kicking in, pressed, what do you know about the ritual, Aunt Agatha? Aunt Agatha hesitated, then said, the ritual is ancient, passed down through the Bennett line. It involves the locket, the very symbol of Clara and Jonathan's love. On the night of a full moon, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, the locket must be placed by the pond, where Clara last stood waiting for Jonathan. A chant must be recited, and a sacrifice of true love made. Lily, her eyes wide, whispered, what kind of sacrifice? And Agatha looked pained. A memory, a cherished moment of true love, willingly given up to the depths of the pond. The sacrifice will act as a bridge, allowing the trapped souls to move on. Emma, her mind racing, realized the gravity of the situation. The next full moon is in 3 days. We have little time. David, taking Emma's hand, said, we'll face this together. For Clara, for Jonathan, and for all the souls trapped in Harrow House. And Agatha nodded, I'll guide you through the ritual. But remember, the house will resist. The curse has grown strong over the years, feeding on sorrow and despair. Be prepared for anything. As the family united in their resolve, the walls of Harrow House seemed to pulse with energy, as if sensing the impending confrontation. The battle for the souls of the mansion had begun. The days leading up to the full moon were fraught with tension. Harrow House, once a symbol of grandeur and history, now felt like a ticking time bomb. The whispers grew more frantic, the air colder, and an oppressive atmosphere settled over the mansion. Lily, usually so full of youthful exuberance, became withdrawn. She complained of nightmares, of shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her room, whispering threats. David, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy, immersed himself in the renovations, but even he couldn't ignore the tools that would inexplicably go missing or the lights that would flicker without reason. But it was Emma who bore the brunt of the supernatural events. Each night, as she lay in bed, she would feel an icy hand caress her cheek or hear a mournful lullaby that seemed to emanate from the walls. One evening, as she was documenting her findings in the study, she was startled by the sudden appearance of a ghostly apparition. A young woman, dressed in a gown from the late 1800s, her face pale and eyes filled with sorrow, stood before her. It was Clara. Help us, she whispered, her voice echoing through the room. Break the curse, set us free. Emma, her heart pounding, reached out, but Clara vanished, leaving behind a trail of cold air and a sense of urgency. The family convened in the living room, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. Aunt Agatha, her face lined with worry, said, the house knows what we're planning. It's resisting, trying to scare us away. We must be strong, united. David, holding Lily close, nodded. We can't let fear control us. We have a duty, not just to our family, but to all the souls trapped here. Lily, her voice trembling, whispered, I'm scared, but I want to help. I want to be brave like Clara. Emma, tears in her eyes, hugged her daughter. We'll face this together. As a family. The night of the full moon arrived, casting a silvery glow over Harrow House. The family, dressed in white as a symbol of purity and hope, gathered by the pond, the locket in Emma's hand. Aunt Agatha began chanting an ancient incantation, her voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the wind. As the ritual progressed, the atmosphere grew charged. Shadows danced on the water's surface, ghostly figures emerged from the woods, and the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp, blurring the lines between the past and the present. And then, in the midst of the chaos, a moment of clarity. Emma, holding the locket aloft, recalled her most cherished memory, the day Lily was born, the overwhelming love she felt holding her daughter for the first time. With tears streaming down her face, she willingly sacrificed that memory, casting the locket into the pond. A blinding light erupted, enveloping Harrow House. The ground trembled, the wind howled, and for a moment, time stood still. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The whispers ceased, the apparitions vanished, and a sense of peace settled over the mansion. The family, exhausted but triumphant, embraced. The curse was broken, the souls of Harrow House set free. As dawn broke, casting a golden hue over the estate, the Mitchell family knew they had not only reclaimed their home but had also given a voice to the silenced, ensuring that their stories would never be forgotten. The days following the ritual were a mix of relief and celebration. The oppressive atmosphere that once dominated Harrow House had lifted, replaced by a sense of tranquility. The family went about their daily routines, grateful for the return of normalcy. But this peace was short-lived. It began subtly. Lily, who had always been a vivacious and cheerful child, became increasingly withdrawn. She would often be found staring blankly at the walls, lost in thought. At first, Emma and David attributed it to the trauma of the recent events, believing that with time and love, she would heal. But as the days passed, Lily's behavior grew more erratic. She would suddenly burst into fits of laughter at inappropriate times or become inconsolably upset without any apparent reason. But what alarmed Emma and David the most was when Lily began speaking in voices not her own. One evening, as the family sat down for dinner, Lily, her eyes glazed over, began speaking in a deep, gravelly voice, "The house may be free, but the child is mine." David, panic evident in his eyes, tried to console her. "Lily, sweetheart, it's Daddy. Can you hear me?" But Lily, or the entity controlling her, continued, "You may have broken one curse, but another binds her. She will be the vessel for my revenge." Emma, tears streaming down her face, held Lily close, trying to reach her daughter through the haze of possession. "Lily, fight it. We love you. Come back to us." The room grew cold, and a shadow seemed to envelop Lily. Her body went limp, and for a moment, all was silent. And then, in her own voice, weak and trembling, she whispered, "Mommy, I'm scared." The family, shaken to their core, realized that their battle with the supernatural was far from over. Whatever entity had taken hold of Lily was powerful and vengeful, and they needed to act fast to save their daughter. The days following the initial episode were filled with trepidation. Lily's moments of possession became more frequent, and with each episode, she revealed information that she couldn't possibly know. One morning, as Emma prepared breakfast, Lily, with an eerie calmness, began describing the layout of the mansion's hidden chambers, rooms that even Emma and David hadn't discovered yet. She spoke of secret passageways, hidden vaults, and long-forgotten artifacts. Another time, during a family game night, Lily suddenly recounted a detailed account of a ball held at Harrow House in the late 1800s. She described the guests, the music, and even the conversations with such accuracy that it felt as if she had been there. But the most chilling episode occurred one stormy night. The family was huddled in the living room, the wind howling outside, when Lily, her voice dripping with malice, began narrating the dark deeds of past inhabitants of Harrow House. She spoke of betrayals, of secret alliances, and of murders that had been skillfully covered up. David, trying to maintain his composure, asked, "Lily, how do you know all this?" Lily, her eyes vacant, replied, "The house tells me. It shares its memories, its secrets. And it wants revenge." Emma, holding back tears, whispered, "What does it want, Lily? Tell us how to make it stop." Lily, her voice now a mere whisper, said, "It wants to be acknowledged, its stories to be told. Only then will it find peace." The weight of their situation was becoming clear. While they had freed the trapped souls of Harrow House, they had also awakened its dormant memories, and now, the house wanted its tales to be known. And it had chosen Lily as its vessel. The family, united in their determination to save Lily and appease the house, knew they needed guidance. And there was only one person who could help them navigate this new challenge, Aunt Agatha. The Mitchell family, desperate and on edge, turned to Aunt Agatha. Her knowledge of the supernatural and her connection to Harrow House made her their best hope. When they recounted Lily's episodes, Aunt Agatha's face turned grave. "This is no ordinary possession," she began, her voice heavy with concern. "The house, with its centuries of memories and emotions, has chosen Lily as its conduit. It's not just one spirit that's influencing her, it's the collective consciousness of Harrow House." David, his voice trembling, asked, "How do we save her, Aunt Agatha?" And Agatha took a deep breath. "We need to perform a cleansing ritual, one that will sever the connection between Lily and the house. But it won't be easy. The house will resist, and we must be prepared for anything." Emma, clutching Lily's hand, said, "Tell us what to do. We'll do whatever it takes." And Agatha outlined the plan. "We need to gather certain herbs and artifacts, many of which can be found within the house itself. They will form a protective barrier around Lily during the ritual. Additionally, we'll need to recite an ancient incantation that will help free her from the house's grip." The family, with Aunt Agatha leading the way, set about gathering the necessary items. From the attic, they retrieved a silver chalice that had belonged to the original inhabitants of Harrow House. From the gardens, they picked sage, lavender, and rosemary, herbs known for their cleansing properties. As night fell, they gathered in the grand hall, forming a circle around Lily. And Agatha lit candles at each cardinal point, their flames flickering in the darkness. She began chanting, her voice echoing through the vast room. The others joined in, their combined voices creating a powerful resonance. As the ritual progressed, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. Shadows danced on the walls, and the temperature dropped sharply. Lily, her body convulsing, began speaking in multiple voices, each more menacing than the last. The house, sensing the threat, was fighting back. But Aunt Agatha, drawing on her years of experience and her deep connection to the spiritual realm, pressed on. The incantation grew louder, more forceful. The herbs, placed in the silver chalice, emitted a fragrant smoke that enveloped Lily. And then, with a final, deafening roar, it was over. The shadows receded, the temperature returned to normal, and Lily, exhausted but free from the house's influence, collapsed into her mother's arms. The family, drained but relieved, thanked Aunt Agatha. "You've saved our daughter," David whispered, tears in his eyes. Aunt Agatha, her face lined with fatigue, replied, "The house is a living entity, with its own desires and memories. Respect it, acknowledge its history, and it will coexist peacefully." As dawn broke, the Mitchell family, stronger and more united than ever, looked to the future with hope, knowing that they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. With Aunt Agatha's guidance, the Mitchell family understood that to appease Harrow House, they needed to acknowledge its vast history. This meant diving deep into the mansion's past, unearthing stories, memories, and artifacts that had long been forgotten. The attic, a vast space filled with dust-covered trunks and cobweb-draped furniture, became their primary focus. Emma, with her journalist's eye for detail, led the search. She uncovered old diaries filled with the daily musings of past inhabitants, letters sealed with wax that spoke of love and loss, and faded photographs capturing moments of joy, sorrow, and everything in between. David, using his knowledge of antiques, discovered a collection of old paintings depicting the mansion in various stages of its existence. One particularly striking painting showcased Harrow House in its early days, its grandeur evident, with people dressed in period clothing gathered on the lawn for what appeared to be a summer gala. Lily, her youthful curiosity undeterred by recent events, stumbled upon a music box. Its exterior was tarnished with age, but when she opened it, a haunting melody played, evoking images of ballroom dances and candlelit dinners. Aunt Agatha, with her deep connection to the family's history, provided context to their findings. Each of these items, she explained, holds a piece of the house's soul. They've witnessed moments of happiness and heartbreak, and by including them in the ritual, we're acknowledging the house's significance. The family worked tirelessly, cataloging their discoveries and piecing together the mansion's rich tapestry of stories. With each artifact they uncovered, they felt a step closer to understanding Harrow House and, hopefully, appeasing its restless spirit. In the dimly lit drawing room, the Mitchell family gathered around Aunt Agatha, who had set up a makeshift altar adorned with the artifacts they had found. The room was filled with the scent of burning sage, and the flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls. Aunt Agatha, her face serious, began, "The ritual we are about to perform is ancient and powerful. Its purpose is to acknowledge the house's history, to show respect to the memories it holds, and to create a bond of understanding between the living and the essence of Harrow House." She laid out a series of old parchments, each inscribed with intricate symbols and incantations. "These are the words we will recite. They have been passed down through our family, a testament to our connection with this mansion." David, his voice tinged with concern, asked, "What are the dangers, Aunt Agatha?" She met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of determination and caution. "The house, in its current state, is restless and unpredictable. As we perform the ritual, it might resist, trying to disrupt our efforts. We might experience visions, memories not our own, or even confrontations with manifestations of the house's past. It's crucial that we remain united, drawing strength from one another." Emma, clutching the diaries they had found, added, "We need to be prepared for anything. The stories these pages hold, the emotions tied to these artifacts, they're all a part of the house's essence." Lily, looking at the music box she had discovered, whispered, "It's like we're inviting the house to share its story with us." And Agatha nodded, "Exactly, Lily. But we must approach it with respect and empathy. Only then can we hope to find harmony." She then began instructing them on the specifics of the ritual. They would form a circle, holding hands to create a continuous chain of energy. Each artifact would be acknowledged, its story briefly told, and then placed on the altar. The incantations on the parchments would be recited in unison, their voices rising and falling with the rhythm of the house's heartbeat. As the instructions concluded, the family, filled with a mix of anticipation and apprehension, prepared themselves for the night ahead. They knew that the path to understanding and appeasement would be fraught with challenges, but they were determined to see it through, for the sake of Harrow House and for their own future within its walls. As the night of the ritual approached, a palpable tension settled over Harrow House. The once sporadic whispers grew more frequent, their urgency evident in every hushed tone. Rooms that were once warm and inviting now felt cold and unwelcoming. Shadows seemed to move of their own accord, and more than once, Emma thought she saw figures out of the corner of her eye, only for them to vanish when she turned to look. Lily, sensitive to the changes, clung to her parents, her sleep disrupted by vivid dreams of the mansion's past. One morning, she recounted a particularly vivid dream where she walked through a grand ball, the guests all dressed in period clothing, their faces blurred and indistinct. They danced and laughed, but their eyes held a sadness, a longing that was palpable. David, trying to maintain a brave front, found himself jumpy and on edge. Tools he was using for the house's renovation would go missing, only to reappear in unlikely places. On one occasion, he heard the distinct sound of a child's laughter echoing through the halls, even though he was alone in the house. Aunt Agatha, sensing the escalating supernatural activity, urged the family to remain strong. "The house knows what we're planning," she said one evening, her voice grave. "It's testing us, trying to gauge our resolve. We mustn't waver." Emma, ever the researcher, delved deeper into the diaries and letters they had found. She hoped to find some clue, some hint that would give them an advantage during the ritual. In a diary entry dated 1892, she found a passage that sent chills down her spine. "The house lives, breathes. It rejoices in our joys and mourns our sorrows. But it also remembers, holds on to every slight, every betrayal. To live in harmony with it, one must acknowledge its past, for in doing so, we acknowledge its soul." The night of the ritual arrived, the moon casting a silvery glow over Harrow House. The family, with the weight of their task pressing down on them, gathered in the drawing room. The whispers, now a constant murmur, seemed to surround them, the voices of the past eager to be heard. As they began the ritual, the atmosphere grew thick, the very walls of the mansion seeming to close in on them. But the Mitchell family, united in their purpose, pressed on, determined to bring peace to Harrow House and its myriad of trapped souls. The grand ballroom of Harrow House, with its vaulted ceilings, ornate chandeliers, and expansive floor, had seen countless events in its time. From lavish parties to intimate gatherings, it had been a witness to the mansion's rich history. Now, it stood as the chosen ground for the ritual, its significance not lost on the Mitchell family. And Agatha had explained that the ballroom was the heart of the mansion, where its energy was most potent. "This is where the spirits are strongest," she had said, "and where we have the best chance of reaching them." The family, dressed in white robes to symbolize purity and unity, formed a circle in the center of the room. The artifacts they had gathered were carefully arranged on an altar, each item representing a piece of the mansion's storied past. The candles, strategically placed around the room, cast a soft, flickering light, their flames dancing in the still air. And Agatha, holding a staff made of ancient oak, began the ritual with a solemn incantation. Her voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the vast space, invoking the spirits of Harrow House. As she chanted, the atmosphere grew dense, the very air seeming to pulse with energy. Emma, David, and Lily joined in, their voices melding with Aunt Agatha's, creating a harmonious chorus that reverberated throughout the mansion. The floor beneath them vibrated, and the chandeliers swayed gently, as if the house itself was responding to their call. As the ritual progressed, the ballroom transformed. The walls, once solid and unyielding, became translucent, revealing scenes from the mansion's past. Ghostly figures, dressed in period clothing, appeared, reenacting moments of joy, sorrow, love, and betrayal. The whispers, now clear and distinct, narrated the tales, giving voice to the memories that the house held dear. The Mitchell family, awed by the spectacle, continued their chant, their determination unwavering. They were not just observers, they were participants, actively engaging with the spirits, acknowledging their stories, and seeking to bring them peace. As the ritual reached its climax, a brilliant light emanated from the altar, enveloping the family in its warm glow. The spirits, their stories acknowledged and their pain recognized, began to fade, their forms dissolving into the ether. The ballroom, once the epicenter of supernatural activity, was now serene, the oppressive atmosphere replaced by a sense of calm. The ritual, it seemed, had been a success. But as the family would soon discover, their journey was far from over. The initial serenity that followed the ritual's commencement was short-lived. As the family continued their incantations, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted dramatically. The temperature dropped precipitously, and a chilling wind began to swirl, extinguishing the candles one by one. The room was plunged into darkness, save for the faint glow emanating from the altar. From the shadows, ethereal figures began to emerge. These spirits, unlike the benign memories from before, bore expressions of anger and resentment. Their eyes, devoid of light, fixed intently on the Mitchell family. And Agatha, her voice unwavering, shouted above the rising cacophony, "Stay strong. These spirits seek retribution. They are the ones who felt wronged, betrayed. We must face them and make amends." One by one, the spirits approached. A soldier, his uniform tattered and stained with blood, pointed accusingly at David, forcing him to relive the horrors of a long-forgotten battle that had taken place on the mansion's grounds. David, paralyzed with fear, felt the weight of the soldier's pain and loss. Emma was confronted by a young woman in a wedding dress, tears streaming down her face. The spirit's sorrow was palpable as she recounted a tale of love betrayed, forcing Emma to feel the heartbreak of a love lost. Lily, her innocence making her especially vulnerable, was surrounded by the spirits of children, each with their own tragic tale. They clung to her, their cries of despair echoing in her ears, making her feel the depth of their longing and loneliness. The family, overwhelmed by the onslaught, struggled to maintain their composure. The spirits' demands for retribution, for acknowledgement of their pain, were relentless. And Agatha, drawing on her vast reservoir of knowledge and experience, began a counter-chant, a plea for understanding and forgiveness. "We acknowledge your pain, your loss," she intoned. "We seek to make amends, to bring you peace." The spirits, their anger slowly subsiding, began to listen. The weight of their pain, carried for so long, began to lift. One by one, they approached the altar, their stories being absorbed by the artifacts, their essence finding solace in the memories of Harrow House. As the last spirit faded away, the ballroom was once again bathed in a soft, ethereal light. The family, exhausted but resolute, took a moment to catch their breath, knowing that the most challenging confrontation was yet to come. The ballroom, now silent and still, was suddenly pierced by a melancholic melody. The haunting notes seemed to emanate from the very walls, echoing with a sorrow that was palpable. As the family looked around, trying to discern the source, a figure began to materialize in the center of the room. It was a woman, ethereal and beautiful, with flowing raven black hair and a dress that shimmered like the night sky. Her eyes, deep pools of sadness, fixed on the Mitchell family. It was Clara. And Agatha stepped forward, her voice gentle. "Clara, we've come to help, to understand." Clara's voice, soft yet filled with pain, responded, "For so long, I've been trapped here, my story untold, my love unrequited. The curse that binds this house, that binds me, was born of a heartbreak so profound, it transcended death." She began to recount her tale. Clara had been in love with a man named Elias, a love that was deep and true. However, societal norms and family pressures forced them apart, leading Clara to a life of solitude within Harrow House. Desperate and heartbroken, she sought the help of a local witch, hoping to bind Elias to her forever. But the spell went awry, leading to Elias's untimely death and trapping Clara's spirit within the mansion's walls. "The curse," Clara continued, tears streaming down her face, "was born of my own doing. My love for Elias, my desperation to be with him, it all led to this. And now, I'm forever bound to this house, my pain and regret echoing through its halls." Emma, moved by Clara's story, approached her. "Clara, we want to help, to break this curse and set you free. But we need to know how." Clara, her gaze distant, replied, "The curse can only be broken by a true act of love, one that mirrors the depth of my feelings for Elias." And Agatha, deep in thought, said, "We've acknowledged the house's history, its memories. Now, we need to show it love, to heal the wounds of the past." The family, understanding the gravity of their task, joined hands, focusing their energy and love towards Clara and the house. They thought of their happiest memories, of moments filled with love and joy, channeling those emotions into the ritual. As they did, the ballroom began to glow, the light growing brighter and more intense. Clara, bathed in the radiant glow, began to transform, her spirit becoming more solid, more real. And then, in a burst of light, Elias appeared, his arms open, waiting for Clara. The two spirits, reunited at last, embraced, their love evident in every touch, every glance. The curse, born of heartbreak and despair, was finally broken by the pure, unyielding love of the Mitchell family. As Clara and Elias faded away, their spirits finally at peace, the ballroom returned to its normal state. The family, exhausted but elated, knew that they had not only saved Harrow House but had also brought peace to two souls who had been trapped in torment for far too long. The aftermath of Clara's revelation left the Mitchell family in a contemplative silence. The weight of the mansion's history, its joys and tragedies, pressed heavily upon them. And Agatha, sensing the moment's gravity, spoke up, "The spirits of Harrow House have been acknowledged, but to truly break the curse, we must appease them, show them that their stories will never be forgotten." David, his voice filled with determination, responded, "We're ready, Aunt Agatha. Just tell us what to do." And Agatha began outlining the next steps. Each spirit that resides within these walls carries a unique story, a memory that defines them. We must honor these memories, give them a place of prominence, and ensure they are passed down through the generations. Emma, clutching the diaries they had discovered, added, "These writings, the stories they hold, they can be our starting point. We can create a memorial, a tribute to the lives that once graced this mansion." Lily, her youthful enthusiasm shining through, suggested, "We could turn one of the rooms into a museum, a place where visitors can learn about Harrow House's history." And Agatha nodded in approval. "A splendid idea, Lily. By doing so, we not only appease the spirits but also ensure that their stories live on." The family set to work immediately. They transformed one of the mansion's grand rooms into a memorial, displaying the artifacts they had found, alongside detailed accounts of the mansion's history. Each item was treated with reverence, its story meticulously researched and documented. As they worked, the atmosphere within Harrow House began to change. The oppressive weight that had once hung in the air began to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. The whispers, once filled with pain and longing, now carried tones of gratitude and contentment. And Agatha, overseeing the process, could feel the spirit's approval. "We're on the right path," she said, a smile playing on her lips. "The spirits can sense our sincerity, our commitment to honoring their legacy." The Mitchell family, united in their purpose, worked tirelessly, and in a matter of days, the memorial was complete. It stood as a testament to the lives that had once inhabited Harrow House, a tribute to their joys, sorrows, dreams, and hopes. And as they looked upon their creation, they knew that they had taken a significant step towards breaking the curse that had bound the mansion for so long. With the memorial room complete, Aunt Agatha gathered the family in the grand ballroom once more. The room, which had been the epicenter of so much supernatural activity, now felt calm, its energy subdued but expectant. "In our hands," Aunt Agatha began, holding up a beautifully crafted silver locket, "we have a symbol of our commitment to Harrow House and its spirits. This locket contains a fragment from each artifact we've discovered, a piece of the mansion's soul. By sealing it within these walls, we offer a promise to remember and honor its history." Emma approached, taking the locket gently. "Inside, I've also placed a photo of our family and a written vow. It's our pledge to ensure that the stories of this house are passed down, that the spirits' memories live on." David added, "This is our home now, and we embrace its past as part of our future." Lily, her eyes shining with determination, said, "We won't let the spirits be forgotten. Their stories will be told, and they'll always have a place here." And Agatha nodded approvingly. "Now, we must seal the locket within the mansion, binding our promise to its very foundation." The family, following Aunt Agatha's lead, made their way to the mansion's cellar. At its heart was an ancient stone pedestal, its surface etched with symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. And Agatha placed the locket upon it, reciting an incantation that echoed through the chamber. As she spoke, the locket began to glow, its light merging with the symbols on the pedestal. The family joined hands, their voices rising in unison, reinforcing their vow. The energy in the cellar intensified, a whirlwind of light and sound that enveloped them. And then, as suddenly as it began, it ceased. The locket, now fused to the pedestal, stood as a permanent testament to the Mitchell family's commitment. And Agatha, her face reflecting the gravity of the moment, said, "It is done. Our promise is sealed, our commitment unbreakable. The spirits of Harrow House can now find solace, knowing they are remembered and honored." The family, sensing the significance of their actions, took a moment to reflect. They had not only embraced the mansion's history but had also become an integral part of it. And as they made their way back to the ballroom, they felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the house, but to the countless souls that had called it home. The evening sun cast a golden hue over Harrow House as the Mitchell family returned to the grand ballroom. The atmosphere, once thick with tension and anticipation, was now serene, almost reverent. The whispers, which had been their constant companions since their arrival, had quieted, replaced by a profound silence. As they stood in the center of the room, a soft, ethereal light began to emanate from the walls. One by one, translucent figures appeared, their forms shimmering and insubstantial. Among them was Clara, her face radiant with a peace that had long eluded her. She stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the Mitchell family. "Your actions, your commitment to honoring our stories, have granted us the peace we so desperately sought, she said, her voice soft and melodic. The curse that bound us to this mansion, that trapped us in an endless cycle of pain and regret, has been broken. David, his voice filled with emotion, replied, "We're just glad we could help, that we could give you the peace you deserved." Clara smiled, a tear glistening in her eye. "You've done more than you know. You've not only freed us, but you've also ensured that our stories, our memories, will live on." One by one, the spirits approached the family, expressing their gratitude, sharing their stories, and saying their goodbyes. It was a poignant moment, a final farewell filled with emotion and understanding. As the last spirit faded away, Clara lingered, her gaze fixed on Lily. "You have a special gift, young one," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "Cherish it, nurture it, and use it to bring light to the world." With that, she stepped back, her form dissolving into a cascade of shimmering light, leaving the ballroom in silence. The family, overwhelmed by the events of the evening, took a moment to reflect. They had not only broken the curse but had also formed a deep, unbreakable bond with the spirits of Harrow House. And Agatha, her face reflecting the weight of the moment, said, "We've done it. The spirits are at peace, and Harrow House is free." Emma, holding David and Lily close, replied, "It's a new beginning for all of us." The mansion, once a place of sorrow and pain, was now a beacon of hope and love. And as the Mitchell family looked around, they knew that they had found their forever home, a place where the past and present coexisted in harmony. The days following the ritual were a blur for the Mitchell family. The weight of their experiences, the emotional roller coaster they had been on, left them drained and in need of rest. They took the time to heal, both physically and mentally, drawing strength from each other. David, who had always been the rock of the family, found solace in the mansion's gardens. He spent hours tending to the plants, finding a therapeutic calm in the simple act of nurturing. The garden, once overgrown and neglected, began to flourish under his care, its vibrant colors and fragrant scents a testament to his dedication. Emma, ever the researcher, immersed herself in the mansion's history. She delved deeper into the diaries and letters they had discovered, piecing together the intricate tapestry of lives that had once graced Harrow House. Her work, meticulous and thorough, became a labor of love, a tribute to the spirits that had touched their lives. Lily, with her innate sensitivity, found herself drawn to the memorial room. She would sit for hours, listening to the whispers, communicating with the spirits, and learning from their stories. Her gift, once a source of fear and uncertainty, had become a bridge between the past and the present, a way to keep the memories of Harrow House alive. And Agatha, her role as guide and protector fulfilled, took on the role of mentor, teaching Lily the ways of the spiritual world, helping her harness and refine her gift. As the days turned into weeks, the family settled into a comfortable routine, the memories of their ordeal fading but never forgotten. They were grateful for the second chance they had been given, for the opportunity to be a part of Harrow House's rich tapestry of history. One evening, as they sat in the drawing room, David raised a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "To the spirits of Harrow House, who showed us the importance of remembering the past and learning from it. And to us, the Mitchell family, who faced adversity and came out stronger." The family clinked their glasses, their bond stronger than ever, grateful for the journey they had been on and the lessons they had learned. The decision to remain in Harrow House was unanimous. The mansion, with its rich history and the memories it held, had become an integral part of the Mitchell family's life. They felt a deep connection to it, a responsibility to preserve its legacy and share it with the world. Emma, with her passion for history and research, took the lead in this endeavor. "We have a unique opportunity," she said one evening, as the family gathered in the drawing room. "Harrow House is more than just a mansion. It's a living testament to the lives that once graced its halls. We can turn it into a place of learning, a place where people can come and connect with the past." David, ever the pragmatist, added, "It's also a way to ensure the upkeep of the mansion. The costs of maintaining such a grand property are significant. By turning it into a museum, we can generate revenue and ensure that Harrow House remains in pristine condition for generations to come." Lily, her youthful enthusiasm shining through, was excited at the prospect. "Imagine all the people we can reach, all the stories we can share. We can host tours, workshops, even ghost hunts." And Agatha, her wisdom evident, said, "It's a noble endeavor, one that honors the spirits and ensures that their stories live on. But we must approach it with respect and sensitivity. Harrow House is sacred ground, and we must treat it as such." With a clear vision and a shared purpose, the family set to work. They transformed the mansion, carefully curating exhibits that showcased its rich history. The memorial room, with its artifacts and diaries, became the centerpiece, a place where visitors could immerse themselves in the stories of Harrow House. The museum was an instant success. People from all over the country flocked to it, eager to learn about the mansion's storied past. Guided tours, led by Emma and Lily, became a highlight, with visitors hanging on to their every word, captivated by the tales of love, betrayal, joy, and sorrow. The Mitchell family, with their dedication and passion, had breathed new life into Harrow House. They had turned it into a beacon of history and culture, a place where the past and present coexisted in harmony. And as they looked around, they knew that they had found their true calling, that they were meant to be the keepers of Harrow House's legacy. Months turned into years, and the Mitchell family's life in Harrow House became a harmonious blend of the present's vibrancy and the past's solemnity. The mansion, once a place of sorrow and mystery, now echoed with laughter, learning, and the constant hum of visitors eager to delve into its history. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun cast a golden hue over the mansion's facade, the family gathered on the balcony overlooking the gardens. The trees, their leaves a riot of reds, oranges, and yellows, swayed gently in the breeze, and the scent of blooming flowers filled the air. Lily, now a young woman, turned to her parents, her eyes shining with gratitude. "This place, its stories, they've shaped me, made me who I am. I've learned so much, not just about Harrow House, but about life, love, and the importance of remembering." Emma, her arm wrapped around David, nodded in agreement. "Our journey here has taught us the value of the past, the lessons it holds, and the importance of passing them on. We've been given a second chance, and we've used it to ensure that the stories of Harrow House live on." David, his gaze fixed on the horizon, added, "It's a reminder that while we must always look forward, we should never forget where we came from. Our past, with its joys and sorrows, shapes our present and guides our future." And Agatha, her age showing but her spirit undiminished, smiled at the family she had come to love so dearly. Life is a tapestry of memories, woven together by the threads of time. By honoring the past, by learning from it, we ensure that our tapestry is rich, vibrant, and full of meaning. The family, united in their purpose and love for each other, stood in silence, taking in the beauty of the moment. Harrow House, with its walls that once whispered tales of pain and longing, now stood as a testament to the power of love, understanding, and the importance of remembering. And as the sun set, casting the mansion in a warm, golden glow, the Mitchell family looked to the future, hopeful and determined, knowing that they were the keepers of a legacy that would live on for generations to come.